For as long as I can remember, Christmas has never truly begun when the tree goes up. It begins when the first holiday card arrives. There's something comforting about hearing the soft thud of envelopes falling through the mail slot. Every December, I look forward to it with the same excitement I had as a little girl. Some people collect ornaments, others bake dozens of cookies. My tradition has always been different. I save every Christmas card. Every single one. For 23 years of marriage, Marcus teased me about it. "You know, nobody keeps these things forever," he'd laugh while watching me arrange them across the fireplace mantel. "I do." He would shake his head. "You're sentimental." I call it remembering. Every card represented someone taking a few moments out of their busy life to think about ours. Former neighbors, old co-workers, church friends, college classmates, cousins who lived across the country, even people we hadn't seen in years somehow remembered us every December. To me, those cards weren't paper. They were proof that relationships mattered, that memories survived, that kindness still existed. By Christmas morning, our mantel would be covered with colorful envelopes and family photographs. Marcus always joked that I displayed them more proudly than the stockings. Maybe I did. Our children used to laugh at me. "Mama, it's just mail." "No," I'd tell them while carefully arranging another card beside the others. "It's love delivered through a mailbox." As they grew older, they rolled their eyes every time I said it. But secretly, I think they understood. Some traditions become part of a family without anyone noticing. Ours happened to arrive with postage stamps. Our daughter Jasmine was 28 now, married and living only 15 minutes away. Our son Caleb had recently accepted an engineering job in another state, but he never missed calling every Sunday evening. The house had become quieter over the years, sometimes too quiet. Marcus traveled more than ever. His construction management company continued expanding throughout the Southeast, and with every promotion came more conferences, more inspections, more overnight trips. At least that was the explanation. For years, I accepted it without question. Marcus had always been ambitious, even before we married. I admired that about him. He worked hard because he wanted to provide a comfortable life for our family. Or at least that's what I believed. Every time he packed another suitcase, he kissed my forehead. "I'll be home before you know it." Most of the time he was. Sometimes business trips stretched an extra day or two. Clients changed schedules, weather delayed flights. Construction projects rarely followed perfect timelines. None of it ever sounded unreasonable. Life has a funny way of teaching you that lies don't need to be outrageous. The most believable ones simply sound ordinary. Our marriage looked ordinary. Sunday church, Friday date nights whenever Marcus was traveling, family dinners, neighborhood cookouts, holiday traditions. Friends often described us as one of the strongest couples they knew. I smiled every time someone said it, because I believed it too. If someone had asked me whether I trusted my husband, I would have answered immediately, completely, without hesitation. Trust wasn't something I thought about. It simply existed, like breathing, like sunrise, like Christmas cards arriving every December. This particular December felt especially joyful. The house smelled of cinnamon and fresh pine. My favorite Christmas playlist filled the living room while I wrapped gifts beneath the tree. Soft white lights reflected across the windows after sunset, making the entire house glow. I had already mailed nearly 60 Christmas cards, every envelope handwritten, every message personal. Marcus laughed when he watched me addressing the last few. "You know people print labels now." "I know." "You refuse to make life easier." "I refuse to make it less personal." He kissed my cheek. "That's why everybody loves you." Looking back now, I wonder whether guilt was already hiding behind those smiles, or maybe guilt becomes visible only after you know where to look. The first week of December brought dozens of cards. I opened them slowly, never rushing. Every evening after dinner, I'd make hot chocolate and sit beside the fireplace, opening 2 or 3 envelopes at a time. Marcus usually watched television while I admired family photographs from people we loved. Look at the Robinson kids. They're getting so tall. Oh, the Johnsons finally adopted another puppy. Did you know Susan retired? Marcus answered politely. Sometimes he barely glanced away from the football game. Still, he always listened, or appeared to. One Wednesday afternoon, I returned from grocery shopping carrying several bags through the front door. The mailbox had been unusually full. Christmas catalogs, a church newsletter, electric bill, 5 holiday cards. I smiled. The season had officially begun. I placed everything on the kitchen counter before putting groceries away. Later that evening, after dinner, Marcus received a phone call from work. One of his project managers needed immediate approval for a change order on a commercial building. "I'll take this upstairs." "No problem." He disappeared into the home office. I remained downstairs. The fireplace crackled softly. Christmas music drifted through the speakers. Outside, gentle snowflakes floated beneath the porch light. It was exactly the kind of peaceful December I'd always loved. I carried the small stack of cards into the living room. 4 had familiar return addresses: friends, neighbors, my cousin in North Carolina. The 5th envelope looked different. No return address, only our home address handwritten across the front. Odd. Sometimes older relatives forgot to include return labels. It wasn't unusual. Then I noticed something else. The envelope wasn't addressed to both of us. It simply read, Marcus Carter. Nothing more. No Mr. and Mrs., no family greeting, just Marcus. I smiled to myself. Probably another business acquaintance. Construction companies exchanged holiday cards all the time. I almost placed it aside. Then I remembered Marcus was still upstairs dealing with work. No sense making him come back downstairs for a Christmas card. We've never hidden mail from one another. 23 years of marriage leaves little room for secrets, or so I believed. Without thinking twice, I carefully opened the envelope. The first thing that slid into my lap wasn't a greeting card. It was a glossy family photograph. I smiled automatically. Then my smile disappeared. The room became strangely quiet, not because the music stopped, because my mind suddenly couldn't hear it anymore. There, smiling directly into the camera, stood Marcus. He wore a red Christmas sweater. His arm rested comfortably around a woman I had never seen. Standing between them were 2 young children, a little boy, a little girl, both wearing matching green Christmas pajamas. All 4 of them stood beside a beautifully decorated Christmas tree. They didn't look like strangers posing together. They looked like a family, a real family. My heart began beating so loudly I could hear it. No, the word escaped me before I realized I'd spoken. There had to be an explanation. A charity event, a co-worker's family, a neighborhood photo, anything. My trembling hands turned the photograph over. Nothing, no explanation, only a handwritten note tucked inside the card. I unfolded it slowly. The handwriting was elegant, feminine, warm. The first sentence stole every breath from my lungs. Merry Christmas to the best husband and father we could ever ask for. I stopped reading. I couldn't, not yet. The room tilted slightly beneath me. My hand shook so violently the card slipped onto the floor. Upstairs, I could still hear Marcus talking calmly on the phone, completely unaware that downstairs, one Christmas card had just shattered 23 years of certainty. And somehow, I already knew my life would never look the same again.
I stared at the card for what felt like hours. In reality, it couldn't have been more than a minute. The fireplace continued crackling. The Christmas music still played softly in the background. Some cheerful singer was talking about snowflakes and mistletoe. The contrast felt cruel. How could the world remain so ordinary when mine had just fallen apart? My hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold the photograph. I forced myself to breathe. Slowly, one breath, then another. There has to be a mistake. I whispered the words aloud, not because I believed them, because I needed to hear something that sounded reasonable. The woman in the photograph looked happy, not politely smiling for a picture, genuinely happy. Marcus looked exactly the same, relaxed, comfortable. The smile I had watched across our dinner table for more than 2 decades, only now it belonged somewhere else. The little boy couldn't have been older than 8. The little girl looked perhaps 6. Both children leaned naturally against Marcus as though they'd done it their entire lives. Children don't fake that kind of comfort. They either trust someone completely or they don't. These children trusted him. I picked up the handwritten card again. This time I forced myself to finish reading. Merry Christmas to the best husband and father we could ever ask for. We can't wait for our family vacation next month. The kids are already counting the days until the cabin. Emily keeps asking if you'll finally beat her at sledding this year. And Noah still tells everyone you're the champion snowman builder. Thank you for making every Christmas so special. We love you more than words can say. Always and forever. Love, Sarah, Emily, and Noah. Always and forever. The words blurred through my tears. Sarah, Emily, Noah. 3 names I had never heard before. Yet whoever wrote this card clearly believed Marcus belonged to them. Not as a friend, not as a generous helper, as a husband, as a father. I turned the photograph over again. A small photo lab stamp showed the date. December, last year. This wasn't an old memory. It wasn't something from long before Marcus met me. It had been taken barely 12 months ago. While I was wrapping Christmas presents in this very house, Marcus had apparently been standing beside another Christmas tree with another family. I heard footsteps upstairs. Marcus was finishing his phone call. Instinctively, I gathered everything together, the photograph, the card, the envelope. Without thinking, I slid them beneath the Christmas magazine lying on the coffee table. Not because I wanted to protect him, because I wasn't ready. If I confronted him now, I'd only have questions. I needed answers first. Marcus walked downstairs carrying his coffee mug. Sorry about that. It's all right. He sat beside me on the couch. You opening cards? I smiled, or at least I tried to. Just finished. He glanced toward the mantel. Looks like we're getting quite a collection already. Yes, my voice sounded strangely distant. You okay? I'm fine. The lie tasted bitter. He studied me for a moment. You look tired. I think I overdid it shopping today. He nodded sympathetically. Why don't we order takeout? Normally, I would have loved that idea. Instead, I could barely look at him. Every smile, every movement, every word. Suddenly, I questioned all of it. During dinner, he talked about an upcoming project inspection in Tennessee. 3 days, maybe 4. The client had changed schedules. He apologized for missing our church Christmas concert. It's knowing it's disappointing. I nodded quietly. It's work. The familiar explanation sounded completely different now. Work. Was it really? Or had every business trip carried another destination? After dinner, Marcus fell asleep in his recliner watching television. I sat across the room pretending to read a magazine. Instead, I watched him. 23 years. How could someone hide another family for that long? Was it even possible? Maybe the card really was intended for someone else with the same name. Marcus Carter wasn't an impossible name. Perhaps another Marcus Carter lived somewhere nearby. Maybe the envelope had been delivered incorrectly. Hope returned for exactly 30 seconds. Then I remembered the photograph. His face, his smile. There was no mistake. Around 11 o'clock, Marcus headed upstairs. I'm exhausted. I'll be up in a little while. After he disappeared, I immediately retrieved the hidden card. This time, I carried it into the home office, closed the door, turned on the desk lamp. I placed the photograph beside the computer keyboard, then typed the first name into the search bar. Sarah. Nothing. Too many results. I tried all 3 names together. Still nothing useful. Then I noticed something written inside the Christmas card, beneath the signature, almost too small to see. Love from the Anderson family. Anderson. I typed Sarah Anderson Christmas photos. Thousands of results appeared. I added our state. The list became shorter. Then I clicked the Images tab. At first, nothing. Then my heart stopped. The 4th image showed the exact same little girl from the Christmas card, Emily, standing beside Marcus at what appeared to be a school fundraiser. I clicked the photograph. It led to an elementary school's public Facebook page. There were dozens of albums: Field Day, Fall Festival, Christmas Pageant, Daddy-Daughter Dance. I opened the Daddy-Daughter Dance album. My hands began shaking again. Marcus appeared in 7 different photographs. 7, wearing a tuxedo, holding Emily's hand, helping her pin a corsage onto her dress, dancing with her beneath strings of white lights. The caption beneath one picture read, "Emily Anderson and her dad enjoying another wonderful daddy-daughter dance." Dad, not uncle, not family friend, Dad. I felt physically sick. I clicked another album, Family Picnic. Marcus again, helping Noah fly a kite, teaching him to throw a baseball, laughing beside Sarah beneath a picnic shelter. Every photograph looked effortless, natural, comfortable. There were birthdays, pumpkin patches, Easter egg hunts, school concerts, Halloween costumes, Christmas mornings, year after year. My breathing became shallow. This wasn't one photograph. This wasn't one holiday. This wasn't one terrible mistake. It stretched back years. I kept scrolling. 2019, 2020, 2021. Every year. Marcus. Always there. Always smiling. Always beside Sarah. The same man who claimed he spent holidays inspecting construction sites. The same man who apologized for missing anniversaries because clients needed him. The same man who kissed me goodbye for every business trip. A notification appeared on the screen. The latest family album, uploaded only 3 days ago. Title, Our Christmas Begins Early. I clicked it. The very first photograph showed Marcus hanging ornaments with Emily while Noah sat on his shoulders, reaching for the top of the tree. The comments underneath broke what little remained of my heart. You have the sweetest husband. Your family is beautiful. Marcus is such an amazing father. God truly blessed your little family. I pushed the chair away from the desk. My legs could barely support me. For the first time since opening that Christmas card, I stopped wondering whether it was a mistake. It wasn't. The only question left was far more terrifying. If Marcus had spent more than 10 years living another life, how much of my own marriage had been real?
I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw another photograph. Marcus lifting Emily onto his shoulders, Marcus helping Noah carve a pumpkin, Marcus standing beside Sarah in matching Christmas sweaters. The images repeated endlessly, as though someone had replaced every happy memory from my own marriage with another family's life. Around 3 in the morning, I quietly climbed out of bed. Marcus slept peacefully beside me, one arm stretched across the mattress where I had been lying only minutes earlier. For years, I found comfort in watching him sleep. That night, I only felt confusion. How does someone spend more than 10 years living 2 completely different lives? How does he remember which stories belong to which family, which anniversaries, which birthdays, which Christmas traditions? Did he ever accidentally tell me one of their stories or tell them one of mine? The questions refused to stop. I slipped downstairs carrying my laptop. The house was silent except for the humming of the refrigerator and the ticking clock above the fireplace. The Christmas tree still glowed softly in the corner, its lights reflected against the windows like tiny stars. Normally, I loved sitting beside the tree after everyone had gone to bed. It was peaceful. Now, the lights only reminded me of the photographs. Another Christmas tree, another living room, another family. I opened Facebook again. This time, I searched more carefully. Sarah Anderson. Several profiles appeared. Then I found her. Her profile picture matched the woman in the Christmas card. She looked younger than me, maybe 45. Long auburn hair, kind smile. Nothing about her face suggested she was a villain. She looked ordinary, happy. I clicked through years of public photographs. The further back I went, the worse everything became. Vacation albums, school graduations, zoo trips, beach weekends, every major holiday. Marcus appeared in almost all of them, sometimes wearing sunglasses, sometimes baseball caps, sometimes dressed casually, always smiling, always comfortable. There wasn't a single photograph where he looked like a visitor. He belonged there. That realization hurt more than I expected. Visitors stand slightly apart. They hesitate. They seem temporary. Marcus never looked temporary. He looked at home. I noticed something else. The dates. Many of them matched weekends Marcus told me he was attending construction conferences. One album stopped me completely. Christmas Cabin 2018. Inside were nearly 50 photographs, snowball fights, gift exchanges, family dinners, Marcus helping Noah build a snowman, Sarah kissing him beneath mistletoe. I stared at the upload date, December 26th. My stomach twisted. That Christmas, Marcus told me an unexpected bridge inspection kept him in Kentucky. He apologized over the phone, said he hated missing Christmas morning. I remembered crying quietly after hanging up. Our daughter tried cheering me up. "It's just one Christmas, Mom." I defended him. He doesn't have a choice. Apparently, he did. He simply made a different one. I closed my eyes. The memory returned with painful clarity. I spent Christmas afternoon delivering meals through our church outreach program because sitting alone inside the house felt unbearable. While I served strangers, Marcus opened presents with another family. Tears blurred the screen. I kept scrolling anyway. Every answer created another wound. Then I noticed something strange. There were no wedding photographs. None. Years of family pictures, birthdays, vacations, anniversaries, but no wedding. Curious, I searched even further back. The earliest photograph including Marcus appeared almost 11 years earlier. Sarah captioned it, "The beginning of our forever." Not marriage, just forever. What did that mean? Did she know he was already married? Or had Marcus invented another life for her too? The possibility changed everything. If Sarah believed she was legally married to Marcus, then she might be another victim, not the woman who destroyed my marriage. Another woman deceived by the same man. I wasn't ready to believe that yet, but I couldn't ignore the possibility. Around 6 o'clock, I heard footsteps upstairs. Marcus was awake. Quickly, I closed the laptop. Moments later, he walked into the kitchen wearing his robe. "You're up early." "So are you." He poured himself coffee. "Couldn't sleep?" "Not really." He smiled sympathetically. "Holiday stress?" If only he knew. "I guess." He kissed my head before sitting across from me. "I'll be in Nashville next week." The words hit differently now. "Nashville?" 3-day inspection. "When do you leave?" "Thursday morning." "And you'll be back Sunday?" "That's the plan." He answered so naturally, so effortlessly. I watched his face carefully. Nothing, no hesitation, no guilt, just another ordinary conversation. How many times had he rehearsed these lies? Hundreds? Thousands? After breakfast, he left for work. The moment his truck disappeared, I called my daughter. Jasmine? Morning, Mom. Her cheerful voice nearly broke me. Are you busy today? No. Can you come over? A pause. Is everything okay? I just need you. She didn't ask another question. I'll be there in 15 minutes. True to her word, she arrived exactly 14 minutes later. The moment she walked through the front door, she knew something was terribly wrong. Mama, she wrapped her arms around me before I said a single word. What happened? I couldn't answer immediately. Instead, I handed her the Christmas card, then the photograph. Finally, I opened my laptop. One by one, I showed her the albums, the birthdays, the Christmases, the family vacations. She didn't interrupt, didn't speak. She simply watched. After nearly 20 minutes, she slowly closed the computer. Her face had turned pale. Oh my God! Those 4 words captured everything I couldn't. She looked at me. This has been going on for years. I nodded silently. Mama, she reached for my hand. Have you talked to Dad? No. Are you going to? I don't know. That wasn't entirely true. I knew I would. I just wasn't ready. Not until I understood exactly what I was confronting. Jasmine stared at another photograph. Dad looks... She stopped herself. What? Happy. The honesty hurt. Because she wasn't wrong. He did look happy. Not pretending, not acting. Happy. I whispered the question that had haunted me all night. If he was happy there, I looked around my own living room. Then who has he been here? Neither of us had an answer. And deep down, I feared the truth was waiting somewhere inside the years we had never thought to question. After Jasmine left, the house became unbearably quiet. Silence has a strange way of changing after betrayal. Before, it felt peaceful. Now it felt suspicious. Every room seemed filled with invisible questions. I walked slowly through the living room, past the Christmas tree, past the fireplace covered with holiday cards. Only hours earlier, those envelopes had represented warmth and friendship. Now, every piece of mail made me uneasy. One envelope, one simple mistake, that was all it had taken to expose a life I never imagined existed. I picked up the family photograph again. This time I studied the details instead of the people, the ornaments, the wrapping paper, the stockings hanging over another fireplace. There were 4, one embroidered with Marcus's name. Not Dad, not initials, Marcus. Someone had stitched his name onto a Christmas stocking. That wasn't something created overnight. It belonged to a tradition, a home, a place where he expected to spend every Christmas morning. My heart sank even deeper. I turned the photograph over again. The photo lab date remained the same. Last December, only a year ago, at almost that exact moment, I had been sitting in our church Christmas Eve service alone because Marcus told me a commercial roofing project had suffered storm damage. I remembered praying for his safety while he was smiling beneath another Christmas tree. I could no longer separate truth from memory. Every holiday suddenly demanded to be questioned. Every business trip, every missed anniversary, every unexpected phone call, every conference, every delay. Had any of it been real? Around lunchtime, my phone rang. Marcus. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. Instead, I answered. Hi. Hey, sweetheart. His voice sounded cheerful. I just wanted to let you know the meeting's running long. I closed my eyes. Another explanation, another schedule, another story. I'll probably grab dinner with the team. Of course. No problem. You sure? Yes. I'll be home around 9. I'll leave something in the refrigerator. You always take such good care of me. The sentence nearly broke me. Did he tell Sarah the same thing? Did he thank her for taking care of him, too? We ended the call a minute later. I stared at my phone long after the screen went dark. Then I did something I had never done in 23 years of marriage. I opened our cell phone account online. Marcus handled most of our household bills, not because he insisted, because I trusted him. The password was saved in my browser. Within minutes, I was looking at 6 months of phone records, hundreds of numbers. Most meant nothing: construction companies, clients, suppliers. Then one number appeared over and over again. Morning, afternoon, late evening, sometimes after midnight. The calls weren't always long. Some lasted only a minute, others stretched nearly an hour. I copied the number onto a piece of paper, then typed it into a search engine. Nothing. Private listing. I tried another website. Still nothing. Finally, I entered the number into Facebook's search bar. One profile appeared: Sarah Anderson. My stomach tightened. The same woman from the Christmas card. I clicked her profile. The phone number matched. Marcus hadn't been calling random clients. He'd been calling her almost every day. I scrolled further through the phone records. Christmas, Thanksgiving, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day. His phone connected with Sarah on every major holiday, including days he claimed to be working late. The pattern became impossible to ignore. This wasn't occasional contact. This was daily life, daily conversation, daily intimacy. I printed the records, every page, then placed them beside the Christmas card. The pile of evidence was growing: photographs, phone records, public social media posts, dates, timelines. Each piece supported the next. By late afternoon, I needed more than internet searches. I needed to understand who Sarah really was, not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted truth. The next morning, after Marcus left for work, I drove to the town listed on Sarah's Facebook profile. It was only 45 minutes away. 45 minutes. All these years, another life existed less than an hour from my own. The neighborhood was quiet: tree-lined streets, children riding bicycles, Christmas wreaths hanging from nearly every front door. It looked exactly like ours: ordinary, safe, happy. Using the address listed on county tax records, I found the house, a beautiful white colonial with blue shutters. Fresh garland wrapped around the porch columns. A snowman stood beside the front walkway. Children's bicycles rested near the garage. I parked across the street. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. I wasn't there to confront anyone, only to see, to confirm. A few minutes later, the front door opened. Sarah stepped outside wearing a winter coat. She smiled as 2 children ran toward the driveway, laughing: Emily and Noah, exactly as they appeared in the photographs. They climbed into a family SUV, still laughing, still arguing playfully over Christmas music. Sarah leaned into the back seat to fasten Noah's jacket. Then something that stole my breath. Emily looked toward the house and shouted, "Mom, did Dad already leave for work?" Sarah answered without hesitation, "He left early this morning, sweetheart." Dad. The little girl said it so naturally, the same way Jasmine once called for Marcus before school, the same way Caleb used to ask whether Dad would make it to his baseball games. No child could fake that. No child should have to. I felt tears filling my eyes, not because of Sarah, not because of the children, because they believed exactly what I had believed, that Marcus belonged to them. When the SUV drove away, I remained parked across the street, looking at the empty house, trying to understand how one man managed to create 2 completely believable lives. Then I noticed movement next door. An elderly woman stepped outside carrying birdseed. She smiled politely when she noticed my car, assuming I was lost. She walked towards me. "Can I help you, dear?" I hesitated. "I'm looking for the Anderson family." "Oh," she smiled warmly, "they're wonderful people." My heart pounded. Have they lived here long? Oh, yes, she scattered birdseed across the lawn. About 11 years now. 11 years, exactly what the photographs suggested. The woman continued speaking. Marcus did a beautiful job renovating their kitchen a few years ago. I looked up sharply. You know Marcus? Of course. She laughed. She paused. He's one of the nicest husbands on this street. The word struck harder than any evidence I'd found online. Nicest husband. Not visitor, not friend, not contractor. Husband. That was who the entire neighborhood believed him to be. I thanked her quietly, then drove home with tears streaming down my face. By the time I pulled into my driveway, one painful truth had become impossible to deny. This wasn't an affair hidden in hotel rooms and secret text messages. Marcus hadn't been living a double life in the shadows. He had built another home, another neighborhood, another Christmas tradition, another identity. And somehow he convinced two entire communities that each life was the only one that existed. The drive home felt longer than 45 minutes. Every traffic light seemed to force me to sit with another memory, another excuse, another business trip. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I wasn't crying anymore. Something inside me had changed. The shock was slowly becoming clarity. For 2 days, I had searched for reasons to doubt what I had seen. Now there was nothing left to doubt. An entire neighborhood believed my husband lived among them. Children called him Dad. Neighbors called him Sarah's husband. Holiday photographs stretched back more than a decade. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was another life. When I walked inside my own house, the scent of cinnamon greeted me. Fresh cookies still sat cooling on the kitchen counter. I'd baked them the previous afternoon before everything changed. I looked around my kitchen. Every cabinet, every family picture, every Christmas decoration. How many times had Marcus stood right here after leaving another home? Had he kissed Sarah goodbye before driving to me, or kissed me goodbye before driving to her? The thought made me feel physically sick. That evening, Marcus came home carrying a poinsettia. He smiled the moment he walked through the front door. I thought this would look nice by the fireplace. He handed me the bright red plant. Normally, I would have thanked him with a kiss. Instead, I simply accepted it. It's beautiful. He looked relieved, as if nothing in the world had changed. Over dinner, he talked about Christmas bonuses at work, the company party, employees bringing their children. I watched him carefully. Every smile looked practiced now. Every story sounded rehearsed. Then he casually mentioned something that caught my attention. I'll probably have to leave early Thursday. I looked up. For Nashville? Yeah. The inspection? He nodded without hesitation. The client moved everything up. Another lie. I knew it before he finished the sentence. Something inside me no longer believed anything automatically. Trust had disappeared in only 48 hours. After dinner, Marcus went upstairs to answer emails. I stayed in the kitchen pretending to clean. Instead, I replayed one sentence over and over. Thursday. If he wasn't going to Nashville, where was he really going? The next morning, I called Jasmine again. I need your help. You don't have to ask. I think your father is lying about another trip. She sighed softly. I figured. We agreed not to confront him yet. Instead, Jasmine offered something unexpected. I still have Dad's old tablet. What? He gave it to me years ago when he bought a new one. I frowned. I forgot all about it. So did I. Another pause. It still syncs some of his old calendar information. Within an hour, Jasmine arrived carrying the tablet. It had been sitting inside a drawer for years. The battery barely held a charge. Still, it powered on. Neither of us expected much. Technology changes, accounts expire, devices stop syncing, but sometimes people forget to disconnect old devices. Marcus had forgotten. The calendar slowly loaded, then dozens of appointments appeared. Some matched what I already knew: construction meetings, client lunches, project inspections. Others didn't. One recurring entry appeared every Thursday evening for nearly 10 years. No location, just 2 words: family night. Every Thursday, without exception. Marcus always told me Thursday nights were reserved for networking dinners, industry events, client entertainment. Apparently not. I clicked one appointment. A note opened beneath it. Pick up Emily after dance. Jasmine covered her mouth. Oh my God! Another entry. Noah's science fair. Another. Anniversary dinner. No year specified, just anniversary. There were birthday reminders, doctor appointments, school concerts, Christmas concerts. None involved our family. Every one belonged to theirs. I stared at the screen, unable to move. This wasn't simply another calendar. It was proof of another routine, another schedule, another responsibility, another father. Jasmine whispered what both of us were thinking. He planned 2 lives. I nodded slowly. Every day. For years, he must have memorized 2 calendars, 2 sets of birthdays, 2 holiday traditions, 2 families depending on him. The effort alone seemed impossible, yet somehow he'd done it. Jasmine looked at me. What are you going to do? I don't know. You have to tell him. I will, but not yet. I wasn't waiting because I lacked courage. I was waiting because I needed every answer possible before hearing another lie. That afternoon, I searched our financial records. Nothing unusual appeared in our joint account. Marcus had been careful, very careful. Then I remembered something. Years ago, he insisted on opening a separate business account. It'll make taxes easier. I never questioned it. Now I wondered why. The statements weren't in our filing cabinet, only the account number appeared on old tax returns. I wrote it down. Another piece of the puzzle, another unanswered question. Late that evening, Marcus sat beside me on the couch, watching an old Christmas movie. Halfway through, he reached for my hand. I instinctively pulled away, only slightly, enough that he noticed. He looked at me. You all right? I'm just tired. You've seemed distant lately. The concern in his voice almost sounded genuine. Almost. After Christmas, we'll take a vacation. The irony nearly made me laugh. Vacation. According to the Christmas card, he already had one planned, with another family. I wondered whether he remembered making that promise to them too, or had he accidentally offered the same future to both of us. The thought stayed with me long after we went to bed. Just before falling asleep, Marcus wrapped an arm around me. The familiar gesture no longer felt comforting. It felt unfamiliar, because I suddenly realized something heartbreaking. For years, I'd believed I was sharing my husband with his career. In reality, I'd been sharing him with another family. And somewhere, less than an hour away, Sarah probably believed she was sharing him with work too. Neither of us knew the truth, until one Christmas card accidentally arrived at the wrong house, and now that the truth had found me, I had no intention of looking away.
The following Thursday arrived far sooner than I wanted. Marcus moved through the house exactly as he always did before one of his business trips. He woke before sunrise, showered, pressed his navy blue suit, checked his laptop bag twice, poured himself coffee. Every movement looked practiced, routine. The routine of a man who had repeated the same performance for years. I stood at the kitchen counter pretending to read the morning news on my phone. In reality, I watched everything. He walked over and kissed my forehead. I should be back Sunday evening. I forced a small smile. Drive safely. I'll call when I get to Nashville. There it was again, Nashville. He said it so naturally that for one brief second, I almost questioned myself. Almost. Then I remembered the Christmas photographs, the calendar entries, the neighborhood. Emily shouting from the driveway, "Did Dad already leave for work?" No, the lie belongs to him, not me. Marcus picked up his suitcase and walked out the front door. I waited until his truck disappeared around the corner. Then I picked up my keys. Jasmine was already waiting outside. She had insisted on coming with me. "I don't want you doing this alone." Neither of us spoke much during the drive. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was heavy. 45 minutes later, we parked half a block from Sarah's neighborhood. From where we sat, we could see the entrance without attracting attention. "What if he really goes to Nashville?" Jasmine asked quietly. I looked at the dashboard clock. He won't. At exactly 8:42 a.m., Marcus's truck appeared. Not on the highway heading west, not anywhere near Nashville. He turned directly into Sarah's neighborhood. Neither of us spoke. We simply watched. Marcus parked in the driveway of the white colonial house. The front door opened almost immediately. Sarah stepped outside, smiling. Emily and Noah ran behind her carrying backpacks. The little girl launched herself into Marcus's arms. He laughed, lifted her effortlessly, spun her around, exactly the way he used to spin Jasmine when she was little. I felt every ounce of strength leave my body. Then Noah ran toward him. Marcus ruffled his hair before kneeling to help straighten the boy's backpack. The motions looked automatic, comfortable, practiced. Not a visitor, a father. Jasmine quietly wiped tears from her eyes. I've never seen him smile like that. I looked at her. "What do you mean?" She swallowed hard. She searched for the words. "He always looked tired when he came home." Neither of us said anything after that because we both understood. The energy he claimed work had stolen, he had been giving somewhere else. We watched for another 15 minutes. Marcus kissed Sarah, not awkwardly, not hesitantly, the kind of kiss shared between two people who believed they belonged together. Then he climbed back into the truck, and instead of driving toward Nashville, he drove the children to school. He stopped at the elementary school, walked both children to the entrance. Emily hugged him again before disappearing inside. Noah waved until Marcus's truck pulled away. I lowered my head onto the steering wheel. There was no room left for hope, no room for misunderstanding. Only truth, and truth hurt far more than uncertainty. Jasmine placed her hand over mine. "Mama, I'm all right." But I wasn't. Not even close. After dropping the children off, Marcus drove to a nearby coffee shop. Sarah met him there 20 minutes later. They sat together by the window, laughing, talking, sharing breakfast. From across the street, they looked exactly like hundreds of ordinary married couples. No secrecy, no fear, no rushing. It was as though the entire town accepted them exactly as they appeared. I took several photographs with my phone, not because I wanted evidence for revenge, because I knew Marcus would lie. He had been lying for more than 10 years. Without proof, he'd simply continue. Around noon, Marcus finally left, heading toward the interstate. Perhaps now he would actually drive to Nashville. Perhaps he had a legitimate meeting after spending the morning with another family. At that point, it hardly mattered. The damage had already been done. Jasmine and I remained parked for another few minutes. Neither of us seemed ready to leave. Finally, she asked the question that had been lingering between us. "What about Sarah?" I looked toward the White House. She had no idea we were there, no idea another woman sat only yards away, carrying a Christmas card addressed to the wrong address. No, the lie belonged to him, not me. Jasmine frowned. Why? Because happiness like hers? I watched Sarah hanging a Christmas wreath on the front door. Doesn't look like someone hiding a secret. It looked like someone living inside one. There is a difference. The drive home felt quieter than the drive there. The truth no longer needed investigation. It had revealed itself completely. When we reached my house, Jasmine hugged me tightly. What now? I looked toward the front porch. Christmas lights still blinked cheerfully along the roofline. The mailbox still held Christmas cards from friends. Everything looked exactly the same. But I wasn't the same woman who opened the mailbox a week ago. Now, I answered slowly, I stopped wondering. She nodded. And after that, I looked down at the Christmas card still resting inside my purse, the card that had never been meant for me, the card that accidentally delivered the truth. After that, I took a deep breath. I asked Marcus one question. What question? I met my daughter's eyes. I don't want to know why he lied. I paused. I want to know which family he planned to spend Christmas with, because no matter what answer he gave, one thing had already become painfully clear. For more than 10 years, every December, one family celebrated while another waited. Neither family knew they were sharing the same husband. The only reason I knew now was because a single Christmas card had lost its way.
I didn't confront Marcus that night or the next morning. People often imagine betrayal ending with shouting, with broken dishes, with dramatic accusations. Real life is rarely that theatrical. Sometimes the deepest pain sits quietly across the dinner table, pretending nothing has changed. Marcus returned home Sunday evening exactly as he promised. He carried a small gift bag. Nashville had a Christmas market downtown, he smiled as he handed it to me. I thought you'd like these. Inside were handmade ornaments, tiny wooden angels, beautifully carved. For years, I would have treasured them. Now I couldn't stop wondering where he'd actually bought them, or whether he'd purchased identical ornaments for Sarah. Thank you, I said softly. He kissed my cheek. I missed you. The words felt almost surreal. Missed me. How could someone miss one family while spending the weekend with another? That night, after Marcus fell asleep, I carried every piece of evidence into the dining room. The Christmas card, the photographs, the phone records, the screenshots from Sarah's public social media, the calendar entries Jasmine discovered, the pictures I had taken of Marcus dropping Emily and Noah off at school. I spread everything across the table. It looked less like a family dining room and more like an investigation. One lie connected to another. Every date supported another photograph. Every photograph matched another phone call. Every phone call explained another business trip. There were no gaps anymore, just truth. Monday morning, I called attorney Denise Holloway. She specialized in family law. Years earlier, she helped a coworker through a complicated divorce. I remembered how calm everyone described her. I needed calm, because my emotions felt anything but calm. Her assistant scheduled me for Wednesday afternoon. Bring anything you think might be important. I almost laughed. At this point, that included half my dining room table. Before the appointment, I decided to organize everything chronologically. I bought several binders, plastic sleeves, colored tabs. I labeled each section: holiday photographs, phone records, travel dates, calendar entries, financial documents. By the time I finished, I wasn't simply looking at evidence. I was looking at the timeline of two completely different marriages. One evening, while sorting receipts, I found something unexpected: Marcus's airline confirmations. He'd always forwarded travel itineraries to our shared email just in case. Most matched his explanations, but a few didn't. Several flights he'd claimed were to Tennessee had actually landed in the city where Sarah lived. The confirmations had been edited before he forwarded them. The original metadata remained attached. He hadn't expected anyone to examine it. Another lie, another piece added to the growing pile. Monday arrived. I walked into Denise Holloway's office carrying 2 heavy storage boxes. She raised an eyebrow. I don't think anyone has ever brought this much paperwork to a first consultation. I wasn't sure what mattered. She smiled kindly. We'll figure that out together. For nearly 3 hours, she reviewed everything. She rarely interrupted. Occasionally, she asked for clarification. Dates, addresses, names. When she finally leaned back in her chair, the office became very quiet. Mrs. Carter, she folded her hands. I've handled difficult divorces for 26 years. I waited. I've seen affairs. I nodded. I've seen hidden assets. Another nod. I've seen second relationships. She looked directly at me. I have almost never seen someone maintain 2 fully functioning families for this length of time. Hearing another person say it made everything feel even more real. I kept thinking maybe I misunderstood. You didn't. She gently tapped the Christmas card. This changed everything. I looked down at it. Still impossible to believe such a simple envelope had uncovered so much. Denise continued reviewing the photographs. Have you spoken to Sarah? No. Do you intend to? I don't know. She nodded thoughtfully. If she truly believes she's legally married to Marcus, she paused carefully, then she may be as much victim as you are. The sentence echoed inside me. Victim, not enemy. Victim. For days I've been wondering the same thing. Nothing I'd seen suggested Sarah knew about me. No photographs, no comments, no hidden jokes, no suspicious behavior. Only happiness built upon a lie. Denise closed the final binder. My advice? I leaned forward. Don't confront either of them yet. Why? Because once Marcus realizes what you know, she looked at the evidence, he'll have every reason to start destroying what he can. Phone records, financial accounts, emails, messages. Instead, she handed me a yellow legal pad. We preserve everything first. For the next hour, we created a list. Download phone records, save photographs, print public social media posts, request financial statements, secure retirement account information, copy tax returns, preserve email metadata. Everything. Methodical, organized, logical. For the first time since opening the Christmas card, I felt something unexpected. Control. Not over Marcus, not over the past, over my next decision. When I arrived home that evening, Marcus was decorating the front porch with white lights. He looked up and smiled. Perfect timing. He plugged in the final strand. The house glowed beautifully against the dark winter sky. What do you think? I looked at him, then at the lights. They're beautiful. He walked over, wrapped his arm around my shoulders. Best Christmas house on the street. I looked at the warm lights stretching across our roof, then remembered another house, another porch, another family hanging another wreath somewhere else. Perhaps at that exact moment, Sarah probably believed Marcus was working late, just as I had believed for years. 2 women, 2 homes, 1 man, 1 enormous lie. Marcus squeezed my shoulder gently. We're going to have a wonderful Christmas. I turned toward him, studied the familiar face I'd loved for 23 years, then quietly answered, Yes, but first, we're going to have an honest conversation. He smiled, completely unaware that by this time tomorrow, the Christmas card he never intended me to see would finally demand an explanation he could no longer avoid. The conversation happened the next evening. I waited until after dinner, until the dishes had been washed, until the house settled into its familiar quiet. I didn't want anger speaking for me. I wanted the truth. Marcus sat in the living room watching the evening news. I walked in carrying a plain white storage box, the same box that now held 2 weeks of evidence. He muted the television. "Everything okay?" I placed the box on the coffee table. "I think we need to talk." His smile faded slightly. "About what?" I sat across from him, not beside him. Across. For the first time in 23 years, the distance between us felt intentional. I opened the box. The first thing I removed was the Christmas card. I laid it gently on the table. Marcus looked at the envelope, then at me. His expression didn't change. Not yet. "I accidentally opened your Christmas card." He nodded slowly. "Okay." I pulled out the photograph. The moment his eyes landed on it, everything changed. The color drained from his face. His breathing stopped for a second. His shoulders stiffened. He didn't need to ask where I found it. He already knew. Neither of us spoke. The silence stretched for several long seconds. Finally, I asked the simplest question I could think of. "Who are they?" Marcus looked down at the photograph, then away. "It's not what you think." I almost smiled, not because the answer was funny, because it was predictable. "What do I think?" He rubbed both hands across his face. "I can explain." I didn't ask for an explanation. I kept my voice calm. I asked who they are. Another long silence. Finally, he whispered, "Sarah." I nodded. "And the children?" He closed his eyes. "Emily and Noah." I waited. He didn't continue. "So," I asked quietly, "who are they?" His voice became almost inaudible. "My family." The words settled over the room like heavy snow. Not loud, not dramatic, just devastating. I looked at him carefully. My family. Not friends, not people he helped, not distant relatives. Family. The truth had arrived in only 2 words. I reached into the box again. This time I removed photographs from the school fundraiser, the Christmas cabin, the daddy-daughter dance, the pumpkin patch. I spread them across the table one by one. Marcus stared at them silently. Then I placed the phone records beside them, the calendar entries, the screenshots. Finally, the photographs Jasmine and I had taken of him dropping Emily and Noah off at school. His eyes widened. "You followed me." I found the truth. His shoulders slumped. For the first time since our conversation began, he looked defeated. "I was trying to help them." There it was, the excuse from the Christmas card story. I looked directly into his eyes. "So, husbands kiss women they're helping?" He said nothing. "So fathers attend daddy-daughter dances because they're helping?" Still nothing. "So anniversary dinners are community service?" His head lowered. I continued quietly. "The children call you Dad." He answered before thinking, "Because I am." The room became completely silent. Those 3 words changed everything because they answered the question I hadn't yet asked. Emily and Noah weren't simply children who believed Marcus was their father. They actually were. I felt the air leave my lungs. "You fathered both children?" He nodded, slowly, without looking at me. "Yes." 23 years of marriage, 10 years of lies, 2 children, another woman, another home. My hands remained surprisingly steady. Inside, I felt like I was falling apart. "When?" I asked. "When did this begin?" Marcus swallowed hard. "About 11 years ago." 11 years. Our son had just started college. Our daughter was planning her wedding. While we celebrated those milestones, Marcus had been starting another family. "Did you ever intend to tell me?" His answer came immediately. No. Not because he wanted honesty, because honesty no longer helped him. He looked at me with tears forming in his eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you." I stared at him. The sentence felt almost insulting. "You created another family." "I know. You lied every week." "I know. You missed Christmases." "I know. You watched me pray for your safety while you were celebrating with someone else." His face crumbled. "I know." I leaned back in my chair, suddenly exhausted. "So tell me the truth." He nodded weakly. "I will. Does Sarah know about me?" His answer came instantly. "No." The certainty in his voice caught my attention. "She believes—" She stopped. "What?" "She believes we're married." I closed my eyes. There it was, the answer I had dreaded. Not because it surprised me, because it confirmed what I'd feared since seeing her photographs. Sarah wasn't living beside a married man. She believed she was living beside her husband. "Did you have a wedding?" "No, but I told her—" He broke. "I told her the paperwork had already been handled years earlier." I slowly shook my head. "You lied to both of us." He couldn't deny it. "I kept thinking I could fix everything." "No." I looked around the room filled with Christmas decorations. "You managed everything." I paused. "You never fixed anything." The silence that followed felt endless. Then I asked the question that had haunted me since opening the card. "Which family were you planning to spend Christmas with this year?" Marcus didn't answer. He couldn't, because every possible answer destroyed someone. If he chose me, he betrayed them. If he chose them, he admitted he had already abandoned us. His silence became the answer, and in that moment, I realized something heartbreaking. For more than a decade, every Christmas miracle, every family tradition, every holiday memory had been built on a schedule only Marcus understood. 2 trees, 2 homes, 2 women waiting, 2 families believing they were enough. Until one Christmas card arrived at the wrong address and made it impossible for him to keep pretending they were both the only one. Marcus didn't try to stop me when I stood up. He didn't reach for my hand. He didn't beg me to stay. He simply remained on the couch, surrounded by the photographs that had finally stripped away every lie. I picked up the storage box. "I'll be staying with Jasmine tonight." He nodded without looking at me. "I understand." "No," I said quietly. "You understand that you've been caught." I let the words settle between us. "But you still don't understand what you've taken from 2 families." I walked upstairs, packed a small suitcase, not because I was leaving forever, because I needed space to think somewhere untouched by his explanations. Jasmine opened her front door before I even knocked. She had been waiting. One look at my face told her everything. "He admitted it?" I nodded. She wrapped her arms around me. I finally cried. Not loud, not dramatically, just quietly. The kind of crying that comes when your heart is too tired to keep pretending it's strong. The next morning, attorney Denise Holloway called. "How did it go?" He confessed. A long pause followed. "I'm sorry. So am I." Then I told her something that surprised even me. "I need to meet Sarah." Denise remained silent for a moment. "Are you sure?" "No, but she deserves the truth. And you're prepared for what that conversation might become." I looked out Jasmine's kitchen window. Children were waiting for the school bus across the street. I wasn't prepared for the Christmas card either. Another pause. Finally, Denise answered, "If you do this," her voice remained calm, "do it with compassion." "I will." "Remember," she spoke carefully, "based on everything you've shown me, Sarah appears to have been deceived too." "I know. And if that's true, then neither of us is the other woman's problem." "Exactly." 2 days later, I drove back to the white colonial house. This time I didn't park across the street. I walked directly to the front door. Each step felt heavier than the one before it. I wasn't arriving to accuse anyone. I wasn't arriving to fight. I was arriving because 2 women deserved to stop living inside one man's fiction. I rang the doorbell. Footsteps approached. The door opened. Sarah smiled politely. "Can I help you?" For a brief second, neither of us spoke. She looked exactly as she had in every Christmas photograph, warm, kind, completely unaware. "My name is Angela Carter." The smile remained. "I'm sorry, have we met?" "No," I swallowed carefully, "but we have one very important person in common." Confusion crossed her face. "I'm afraid I don't understand." I looked down at the Christmas card in my hands, then back at her. "This was mailed to my house by mistake." I handed her the envelope. She immediately recognized it. "Oh," she smiled softly. "I wondered why Marcus never mentioned receiving it." The innocence in her voice shattered the last piece of doubt inside me. She truly didn't know. "May I come in?" She hesitated only briefly, then stepped aside. "Of course." The house smelled of fresh cinnamon rolls. Christmas music played softly from the kitchen. Family photographs covered nearly every wall. Marcus appeared in almost all of them. First birthdays, school plays, beach vacations, pumpkin patches. The same life I had already seen online. Only now, I stood inside it. "It must be strange seeing your own Christmas card." Sarah laughed lightly. "I suppose so." Then she noticed my expression. The laughter disappeared. "Is something wrong?" I reached into my purse, removed my wedding photograph. Marcus and I stood outside our church 23 years earlier. I handed it to her. She studied it. At first, she smiled politely. Then her eyes returned to Marcus's face. Her smile faded. She looked at the date, then back at me, then back at the photograph. "What is this?" "My wedding." She frowned. "I don't understand." "I married Marcus Carter." The room became completely silent. She stared at me, then laughed nervously. "No." Her voice sounded uncertain. "No." "I'm sorry." She shook her head. "There has to be some mistake." I spent 2 weeks hoping the same thing. She slowly placed the photograph on the coffee table. Her hands had begun trembling. "Marcus told me—" She stopped. "What?" "He told me his first marriage ended years before we met." I closed my eyes. Exactly as I feared. He never divorced me. Sarah looked at me as though I had spoken another language. "No." I wish I were wrong. She backed away several steps. "This isn't possible." I quietly opened the storage box. One by one, I placed documents on the table. Our marriage certificate, family photographs, tax returns, holiday pictures, stretching back 2 decades. Every year, every Christmas, every anniversary. Sarah stared at the evidence without speaking. Then suddenly she ran down the hallway. Moments later, she returned carrying a framed photograph. It showed her and Marcus standing by a small chapel, both smiling, Emily only a toddler. She handed it to me. "He told everyone this was our wedding day." There was no wedding, no minister, no license, just photographs. Another performance, another lie, another life carefully constructed to look real. Sarah slowly lowered herself on the couch. "It's been 17 years I've been—" She stopped. "What?" introducing him as my husband. Tears streamed down her face. I believed him. I sat beside her, not close enough to invade her space, just close enough that she wouldn't feel alone. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. We simply looked at the photographs scattered across her coffee table. 2 Christmases, 2 homes, 2 women, 1 man. Finally, Saris whispered something that broke my heart more than anything Marcus had confessed. My children. She looked toward the hallway where family portraits hung proudly. Have no idea they're about to lose the father they think they've always had. I gently reached for her hand. No, my own voice shook. They're about to discover they were never the only family he was lying to. And for the first time since opening that Christmas card, I realized the greatest victims of Marcus's deception weren't sitting in that room. They were the 2 innocent children upstairs who still believed Christmas was about to be perfect.
Sarah and I sat in silence for a long time. Neither of us knew what to say. How did 2 women begin a conversation after discovering they've unknowingly shared the same man for more than a decade? There isn't a guide for that. No holiday card ever prepares you for a moment like this. Finally, Sarah stood. I need to see it. What? Everything. I slowly opened the storage box again. This time I didn't organize the evidence. I simply handed it to her. Our marriage certificate, photographs from our wedding, pictures of Marcus holding Jasmine the day she was born, Caleb's high school graduation, family vacations, Christmas mornings. 23 years of a life she never knew existed. She examined each photograph carefully. Sometimes she smiled sadly. Sometimes she cried. Occasionally, she simply stared. When she reached our silver anniversary photograph, her hands began shaking. He told me, she whispered through tears, he couldn't marry me because he had terrible memories from his first marriage. I looked at her. He said he never wanted another wedding. I nodded slowly, so I stopped asking. The realization settled between us. Marcus hadn't simply lied. He customized his lies. He gave each of us a story that explained exactly enough to stop us asking more questions. To me, he explained absences with work. To Sarah, he explained missing legal documents with emotional trauma. Different stories, same purpose, control. Sarah wiped her eyes. I feel so foolish. I reached across the coffee table. No, she looked at me. We trusted someone we loved. That's different. She nodded weakly. For the first time since meeting her, I noticed framed school certificates hanging on the hallway wall. Emily had won a reading award. Noah had placed first in a science competition. Marcus's name appeared proudly beneath both certificates. Father, Marcus Carter. He hadn't lived like a visitor here. He'd signed school paperwork, attended parent conferences, built an entire identity. A few minutes later, the front door opened. Children's voices filled the hallway. We're home. Sarah froze. Her eyes met mine. They're early. Before either of us could react, Emily and Noah ran into the living room. Emily smiled immediately. Mom, who's your friend? Sarah couldn't answer. She simply stood there. Noah looked at me politely. Hi. Hello. I smiled gently. He reminded me so much of Caleb at that age that my chest tightened. Emily noticed the photographs scattered across the table. Then she saw Marcus standing beside me in one of our wedding pictures. Her forehead wrinkled. Mom? She pointed. Why is Dad in that picture? Sarah completely looked overwhelmed. I quietly stood. You don't have to explain today. She nodded gratefully. The children deserved honesty, but they also deserved preparation. Sarah turned toward them. Sweethearts, her voice trembled. Why don't you go upstairs for a little while? Emily frowned. But, please. Something in her mother's face made them obey without another question. Once they disappeared upstairs, Sarah collapsed into a chair. I don't know how to tell them. I know. They love him. I know. He reads to Noah every Wednesday. I know. He never misses Emily's choir concerts. The words hurt because they were probably true. Marcus had been a father here, just as he had been to Jasmine and Caleb. He hadn't divided his time because he didn't care. He divided it because he wanted everything. And in the process, he guaranteed that everyone would eventually lose something. Sarah looked at me. What happens now? I thought about the question carefully. I've already spoken with an attorney. She nodded slowly. I think I need one too. You do. She looked around the living room. Every framed photograph suddenly seemed different. I don't even know what my legal rights are. I don't either, but we'll find out. The word we surprised both of us. Only days earlier we hadn't known the other existed. Now we sat together trying to untangle one man's deception. Before leaving, I handed Sarah attorney Denise Holloway's business card. She was kind to me. Sarah accepted it. Thank you. As I reached the front door, she stopped me. Angela. I turned. I'm sorry. For what? For existing. The sentence broke my heart. I walked back toward her. You don't owe me an apology. She looked away. If I'd known. I know. If I'd known you existed. She couldn't finish. I gently hugged her, very briefly, not because we were suddenly friends, because grief recognizes grief. Neither of us chose this. Neither of us created it. We simply inherited the consequences. Driving home, I realized something profound. Marcus spent more than 10 years making sure Sarah and I never met. Not because he feared we'd fight, because he feared we'd compare notes. Lies survive best when people remain separated. Truth grows stronger the moment victims began talking to one another. That evening, Marcus was waiting when I arrived home. He stood in the kitchen, silent. His face immediately told me he knew. You went to see her. It wasn't a question. Yes. He closed his eyes. I begged you not to. You never begged. I would have. I looked at him steadily. No. I set my purse on the counter. You begged me to believe your lies. Silence. Then quietly I asked, does she know now? I nodded. Everything. He leaned against the kitchen counter as though his legs might give out. And the children? Not yet. Pain crossed his face. Real pain. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Then I remembered the Christmas card, the phone records, the years of deception, the holidays stolen from both families. You had 11 years to tell the truth. My voice remained calm. You chose every single lie. He covered his face with both hands. I never imagined it would end like this. I looked toward the Christmas tree glowing softly in the corner. Neither had I. A simple holiday card. One envelope delivered to the wrong mailbox. That was all it took. Not a private investigator, not hidden cameras, not anonymous phone calls. Just one handwritten Christmas greeting meant for someone else. The smallest mistake Marcus had ever made, and the only one he could never take back.
The week before Christmas became the longest week of my life. Not because of shopping, not because of decorations, because every day carried another difficult conversation. Marcus moved into the guest bedroom without me asking. There was an unspoken understanding between us. Some things didn't need to be said anymore. The distance between us had already become permanent. The house felt strangely different. The Christmas tree still sparkled in the corner. Holiday music still played softly while I cooked dinner. Cards still arrived in the mailbox every afternoon. Only now I opened each envelope with unusual care. I found myself staring at every handwritten address, every unfamiliar name. Every piece of mail reminded me how one simple envelope had uncovered an entire hidden life. 3 days after meeting Sarah, Denise Holloway called. I spoken with Sarah. I wasn't surprised. How is she? Heartbroken. A pause. but she's remarkably composed. That sounded like Sarah. Even during the most painful conversation of her life, she had thought first about Emily and Noah. Denise continued. She retained separate legal counsel. I'm glad. So am I. Another pause. She wanted me to tell you something. What? She said thank you. I closed my eyes. Those two words carried more emotion than I expected. Thank you. Not for exposing Marcus, for respecting her enough to tell the truth gently, for seeing her as another victim instead of another enemy. That mattered, more than either of us could probably explain. Later that afternoon, Jasmine stopped by carrying fresh cinnamon rolls. She noticed the unopened stack of Christmas cards on the kitchen table. You haven't opened these. I know. She looked at me with understanding. You'll get there. Maybe. Eventually. Just not yet. We spent the afternoon wrapping presents together. For the first time since childhood, Jasmine insisted on tying every ribbon herself. You always made Christmas beautiful. She smiled sadly. I want to help this year. I hugged her. You already are. Halfway through wrapping gifts, my phone rang. Sarah. I answered immediately. Hello? Her voice sounded exhausted. We told the children. I closed my eyes. How did it go? A long silence followed. Then I heard quiet crying. Not from Sarah, from someone else. Emily. Sarah whispered. They thought we were joking. My heart broke. When they realized we weren't, she struggled to continue. Noah kept asking when his dad was coming home. I couldn't speak. There wasn't an answer that could protect them. Tears filled my own eyes. I'm so sorry. So am I. Another long silence. Finally, Sarah said something that stayed with me forever. They never cried because you existed. I listened quietly. They cried because their father lied. Those words mattered. Children understand honesty better than adults often give them credit for. They weren't angry that another family existed. They were devastated that someone they trusted had hidden the truth. Before hanging up, Sarah surprised me. Would you tell Jasmine Merry Christmas for me? I smiled through tears. I will. And she hesitated. Thank you for treating my children kindly. I looked toward the Christmas tree. They're innocent. I know. So are mine. I know. After we ended the call, I sat quietly for several minutes. Marcus walked downstairs. He immediately recognized the expression on my face. You talked to Sarah? Yes. How are the kids? His voice cracked. I looked directly at him. They're heartbroken. He lowered his head. I figured. No. I shook my head slowly. I don't think you ever did. He remained silent. I continued. You planned birthdays, you attended school concerts, you read bedtime stories, but somehow, I paused, you convinced yourself this day would never come. His eyes filled with tears. I loved all of you. I believe you. He looked surprised. I do believe you. The words were true. I had stopped questioning whether Marcus loved us. Love wasn't the problem. Honesty was. You loved everyone, I said quietly. You simply believed love excused deception. He didn't argue, because he couldn't. The truth finally left him with nothing to defend. Christmas Eve arrived carrying an unexpected snowstorm. Large flakes drifted gently across the neighborhood, the kind of snowfall that usually filled me with excitement. This year felt different, quieter. Jasmine and Caleb both came home. Our family gathered around the dining room table. The meal wasn't perfect. There were empty spaces impossible to ignore. Marcus wasn't there. He had chosen to stay at a hotel, not because anyone demanded it, because he understood some wounds needed room to breathe. After dinner, Caleb looked around the room. I know things are different. He reached across the table and took my hand. But we're still a family. Jasmine nodded. We always will be. I smiled at both of them, not because everything had been repaired, because something important remained intact. The love between my children and me had survived. Marcus's choices had changed many things, but they hadn't destroyed everything. Later that afternoon, after everyone went to bed, I walked into the living room. Only the Christmas tree lights remained on. The mantel was covered with holiday cards. Friends, neighbors, church members, former co-workers. I carefully straightened each one. Then I picked up the envelope that started everything, the mistaken Christmas card. I held it for a long time. One ordinary envelope, one simple handwritten message, one accidental delivery. It hadn't ruined my life. It had revealed the truth about it. There is a difference. Sometimes truth hurts so deeply that it feels like destruction, but destruction removes, truth uncovers. And although the truth had broken my heart, it had also saved me from living inside a life for the rest of my life. That realization made one thing perfectly clear. No matter how painful Christmas had become, I would never regret opening that card. 1 year later, December arrived again. For the first time in my life, I hesitated before opening the mailbox. Old habits disappear slowly. Some never disappear at all. I stood at the end of the driveway holding a small stack of envelopes against my coat while cold winter air filled my lungs. Christmas cards. Just like every other year, different names, different handwriting, different families sharing their happiest moments. For a few seconds, I simply looked at them. A year earlier, I would have rushed inside with excitement. Now I understood that every envelope carried a story. Most contained joy, some contained grief, a few carried truths the sender never intended. I smiled softly, then walked back toward the house. This time, I wasn't afraid. The front door opened before I reached it. Jasmine stood there holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate. I figured you'd need this. I laughed. You know me too well. She handed me one of the mugs. Better now than last year? I looked around the porch. The same rocking chairs, the same wreath, the same Christmas lights. Only one thing had changed. Me. Much better, and I meant it. The divorce had been finalized months earlier. It hadn't been easy. Very little about the past year had been easy. But peace rarely arrives through comfort. Sometimes it arrives through courage. Marcus had accepted responsibility during the legal process. There were no dramatic courtroom battles, no attempts to deny what had happened. The evidence had been overwhelming from the beginning. More importantly, he finally stopped lying. Not because he wanted to, because there was no one left to deceive. He divided his time differently now, not between 2 secret lives, between 2 honest relationships with the children whose trust he was slowly trying to rebuild. Healing would take years, perhaps longer, but at least it would begin with truth. Sarah and I spoke occasionally, not often. Neither of us wanted to live in the past, yet every few months one of us would send a simple message. How are the kids? They're doing better. Emily had joined her middle school choir. Noah had become obsessed with astronomy and spent hours looking through a telescope Marcus bought him. Jasmine and Caleb had even exchanged Christmas cards with them that year. Not because anyone expected us to become one big happy family, because the children deserved kindness instead of inherited resentment. They had already carried enough of someone else's mistakes. On the Saturday before Christmas, I hosted my annual holiday brunch. For years, I almost canceled the tradition. Then I realized something. Marcus's deception didn't deserve to steal another Christmas. Friends filled the house with laughter. Neighbors admired the decorations. Church members brought homemade pies. Someone complimented the Christmas cards displayed across the mantel. I smiled. I still keep every one. The words surprised even me. For a while, I thought I never would again. But fear doesn't get to rewrite who I am. Later that afternoon, after everyone left, I sat alone beside the fireplace, the same place where I had opened the wrong envelope 1 year earlier. I reached into the keepsake box resting on the bookshelf. Inside were only a few things: my children's handmade ornaments from elementary school, a faded Christmas photograph of my parents, a small silver angel my grandmother once hung on her tree, and one plain white envelope, the Christmas card. I never threw it away. Not because I wanted to remember the pain, because I wanted to remember the lesson. Truth doesn't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it comes disguised as an ordinary afternoon, an unexpected conversation, a forgotten receipt, or a Christmas card delivered to the wrong address. I carefully slid the envelope back into the box. It had done its job, not by ruining Christmas, by rescuing the rest of my life. As evening settled over the neighborhood, I switched on the tree lights. Soft golden reflections danced across the windows exactly as they always had, only now they felt different, warmer, lighter, honest. A gentle knock sounded at the front door. When I opened it, I found a small package resting on the welcome mat. No return address. For just one heartbeat, my stomach tightened. Then I smiled at myself. Old fears, slowly fading. Inside the package was a simple ornament shaped like a mailbox. Attached was a handwritten note. Some deliveries change lives forever. Thank you for choosing truth over anger. Wishing you peace every Christmas. Sarah. Tears filled my eyes, not tears of heartbreak, tears of gratitude. I carefully hung the little mailbox ornament near the center of the tree, where I could see it every December. Jasmine walked into the room carrying another cup of hot chocolate. She noticed the ornament immediately. "That's beautiful." I nodded. "It reminds me that life can surprise you." "In a good way?" I smiled. "Eventually." She slipped her arm around my shoulders. We stood quietly watching the lights. After a while, she asked the question everyone had wondered over the past year. "Do you still love Christmas?" I looked around the room. The glowing tree, the holiday cards, the stockings, the laughter that had recently filled the house. Then I thought about the woman I had been 12 months earlier, trusting, happy, completely unaware. And now I thought about the woman standing here now, still kind, still hopeful, only wiser. "I do," I answered without hesitation, because Christmas didn't betray me. I gently touched the little mailbox ornament. A person did. The holiday had simply carried the truth to my front door. Before going to bed that night, I walked to the mailbox one last time. It stood quietly beneath the porch light, ordinary, simple, just as it always had. I smiled. Funny how something so ordinary had once delivered the most extraordinary truth of my life. People often ask whether I regret opening a Christmas card that wasn't addressed to me. The answer has never changed. No, if I hadn't opened that envelope, I might still be waiting every December for a husband who was spending Christmas somewhere else. Instead, I found the truth. I found my voice. I found unexpected compassion for another woman and 2 innocent children. Most importantly, I found myself again. Now, every Christmas, I still open every card that arrives, not because I expect another secret, but because I refuse to let one man's deception steal the joy of a season I have loved my entire life. Sometimes the greatest gift waiting inside an envelope isn't comfort, it's clarity. And although clarity can break your heart, it can also set you free. The end.